Hello YouTube, Dave here again, and today I wanted to do something just kind of fun. One of the things that I really wanted to do a bit more this year was just create videos that I want to create just because I thought they'd be fun to do, and this is actually based off of a request from one of my previous videos. So when I did my unboxing of the Icons of the Realms Beholder's Collection set, I did show this box set as well, although I didn't really go into detail on it. I just did sort of a quick side by side of like the boxes, and I had someone actually ask if I could do a more direct comparison. So that's what I'm going to be doing later on in the video. But before I get to that, I thought it would just be kind of fun to show off all of the various Beholder miniatures or Beholder related products that I own. So it's not going to be in like chronological order or anything like that because I honestly can't remember the exact order for a lot of these things, but I'm going to show off all the Beholder related stuff that I own, and I figure there's no better way to start than with the first Beholder miniature I ever owned, which is this guy right here. This is the Beholder Mini from the 2005 Death Knell set of the D&D miniatures games. This was the plastic pre-painted skirmish game that you could buy at your local game stores, and this was from the Death Knell set. This was sort of, I was kind of done, we weren't actively playing the game much at this point in time, but whenever a new set would come out, there was always one mini that it's like, okay, this is my favorite mini from the set. If I can find it, if I can pull it from a booster box, then I'm just done with that set altogether. And this guy was in the first and only box of Death Knell that I ever picked up. Beholders have been my favorite monster since I got my second edition AD&D Monsters Manual, and just seeing all the different like strange Beholderkin and monsters that were in that book. So yeah, when this set came out, I was really happy to find that. Really, really cool. A couple of years later, a few years later, during the fourth edition era, they had a new version of their miniature product line, which did away with the actual like tabletop skirmish game, and instead they were just giving you minis with the stat cards that you could use for your just the tabletop RPG. And they had this set where it was four random minis, but then there was one an unrandomized mini that you could see through a window on like the packaging. So there was one miniature that you knew what it was going to be, and they actually did something pretty smart because for the most part, these were minis that people would want. One of them was there was an Aboleth, there was a Baylor, and I think there was a couple of other ones that I honestly can't remember what they were now. But the one that I got, obviously, was the Purple Beholder. This is the Ultimate Tyrant, and this came out in 2009 from Wizards of the Coast. Again, just a really awesome mini purple plastic. Purple's my favorite color, so that was kind of a no-brainer. But yeah, just really, really awesome. I've used this mini quite a few times over the course of my DMing career from the moment I got it until just a few years ago, actually. There was a Beholder you could encounter in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure, and when the players got to that area, that was the mini that I used. So that was actually kind of cool. That Beholder also petrified one of the players and ended up disintegrating the statue when a bunch of other people tried to run from the fight. So anyway, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But still really, really cool. So those are the first two Beholders that I ever owned. Several years later, with the release of 5th edition, WizKids started putting out their own miniatures line, which included the random plastic pre-painted minis, which I just had no interest in trying to collect because the prices were a little bit too high, and you were getting half the minis that you used to get with the old D&D mini set. But they also started releasing a line of unpainted minis that you could buy the ones that you specifically wanted, which is the best way to do it in my opinion. I like the fact that they give you both of those options. So there are people that love buying the random boosters to see what they get. But then there's people like me, it's like I've got a ton of minis already that I'm not using. If I want to buy something, I want to buy something specific, and that is this Beholder here. So this is the standard 5th edition Beholder. This is based off of the artwork from the 5th edition Monster Manual cover. So that's where that sort of mini sculpt came from, that kind of concept came from. Looks really, really cool. And this one is still sealed. This one came out in 2017, so this is already 5 years old, which is nuts. But I also bought a second one that I could actually paint myself, and that's this guy right here. And I think it turned out pretty okay for someone who hadn't painted anything for years at this point. It was a lot of fun to do. I'm not good at it. Like, I'm not a good painter. I don't pretend to be, but it was still a lot of fun, and I think it turned out okay for my skill level. In addition to that, I also, when I was getting into the earlier days of this channel around that same time, I did have somebody reach out to me, and they were running a 3D printing business that had a collection of fantasy miniatures that you could get from them. And they was like, we can send you any two that you want from what we offer. The first one that I asked for was the Succubus, and then the second was this guy right here. So this is their take. I think it was called Eye Tyrant, or something along those lines. Something that wasn't like trademarked or copyrighted or intellectual property, I guess, infringing upon. But I thought this was a really cool sculpt. You've got like the eye stalks actually coming out of the back of the head and then wrapping around the front of the beholder. I thought that was really, really cool. The mouth sculpt looked really interesting with like the strands of like sinew that you can see when the thing sort of opens its mouth through like just the sides there. I thought that looked really, really cool. I wish I could remember the name of the company that the person was promoting. If you happen to watch this video and you're the one that sent this to me, then feel free to leave the name of your 3D printing business in the comment section, and I'll make sure that if it gets blocked because it has like a company name or they think it's spam, I'll be sure to unblock it for you. But yeah, I thought this was really, really cool. So that was sent to me for promotional purposes, and I did do a video showing both of those off back in the day. Up next, we actually have a trade that I made with a friend of mine that was big into the random 5th edition plastic minis. And I traded him a bunch of my older stuff that I had tons and tons of copies of. In fact, I think most of the stuff that I gave him in exchange were still polybagged from like 2003 and 4. But I traded it for this zombie beholder, or beholder zombie. This was from 2019, and I just thought this was a really, really cool sculpt. I love like the white eye there, and just the tongue. The fact that the tongue is actually like ripped out or partially severed, so you don't get like the full beholder tongue. The mouth just hanging open, I thought looked really, really cool. So I thought this was a really awesome mini. So we traded for a few things, and I also a little while later was able to pick up the unpainted version of the same mini, which I thought was again really, really cool because I will like to have as many beholders in my collection as possible. I do keep the price tags on these as well, so I can sort of give you an idea of like the Canadian prices of things. So this was also from 2020. So it was a few months later, but still really, really cool. So we got the zombie beholders there. We also have the beholder Death Tyrant. So this is like the ghost version of the beholder, which again looks really, really cool. You've got the translucent ghostly eye stalks coming out of different parts of the beholder's skull, which looks really, really cool. I love the sculpt. I love the details on it. I think look really cool. I just love the beholder's skull in general. I think it looks awesome, and they did a really good job with the translucent eye rays there. And I also picked up the paint kit of the same Death Tyrant beholder. This was from 2021, I think. 2021, yeah. So this came out a year late. Actually, when did this one come out? So both of these came out in 2021. So the paint kits were something that were designed for like local game stores to have events where people could come in and purchase the miniature with the paints along with it. And the idea was that you would just have a paint night at your local game store. Now, unfortunately, real life kind of happened and a lot of stores weren't doing events. But they continued to actually release these and just make them available for stores to just sell regularly, which is really awesome. So it comes with several paints, actually, quite a few different paints. And again, it's just the Beholder Death Tyrant Mini. And if I can get the thing to actually... It's probably not going to focus. Anyway, this was $25.99 Canadian, but not a bad price for the fact that you're getting like the paints and everything included in there. We also ended up picking up, I also ended up picking up the Frameworks Beholder miniature set. So this is just a model kit, basically, where you can have some customization options for your Beholder Mini. The overall Beholder that is included in the set is the same one as this original Beholder that we had back from 2017, but you do have like the various different eye rays, the different poses. You have a couple of different eye options that you can put on there. You have some of the eye stalks that are actually firing off the eye rays, a couple of different jaws that you could use for the Beholders, like the Beholder's mouth, even a couple of different tongues and different poses, and it comes with the little mini eyeball Beholder, which I thought was awesome. So there we go. Really, really cool stuff. This was $39.99 Canadian, and yeah, it was a little expensive. I had store credit, so I actually didn't end up paying full price for it, thankfully, but still really, really cool. The last sort of standard miniature that I want to show off is actually a brand new one. This is a 2022 version of the Beholder. It's the variant Beholder, so it's a different sculpt, and this thing just looks super cool, in my opinion. So it's just got a very different look to it. You've got these really like needle-like numerous teeth, irregularly spaced. You've got sort of a stubby, thick tongue coming out of its mouth there. You've got the smaller kind of central eye, which is actually kind of almost like bulging out of the front of the Beholder's head. And then you just have the various different eye stalks there. And the painted example that they give is, again, really, really cool. Like, it's a very interesting color palette that they put on this. And I love the contrasting color of green and purple together. Like the green makes the purple parts really stand out. I just thought this was a really cool version of the Beholder, so I had to pick that up. All right, now before we get to the actual collector's sets and show them the minis kind of side by side, there's a couple of other things Beholder related that I have in my collection, and these are more plush Beholders. The first one that I have here is the Xanathar gamer pouch that I got from my local EB Games. I guess it's all called GameStop nowadays, but I ended up picking this up a few years ago, a couple years ago, I think, actually. I don't think this has the date on it. Oh no, 2019, okay. So I ended up picking this up. This is actually a pouch that it's meant to hold some dice. There's not a ton of room in there to store things. And I didn't want to store things anyway. I just wanted it for the fact that it's a Beholder, and it's Xanathar, and I think Xanathar is kind of cool. So we've got that, obviously based off of the Xanathar's Guide to Everything version of them, but still really, really cool. Again, it also has a clip for those of you that are hardcore enough to want to clip this to your belt loops on your pants. So that is an option. The last thing in terms of the plushes that I have is just this little adorable like pink Beholder keychain from it's from Kid Robot, and it just said Dungeons & Dragons plush charm, and they had the Beholder. This is still sealed. Unfortunately it's glue sealed. It's not like a tab, so I can't take this out without destroying the packaging, basically, because the glue is really good on this, because I actually bought the displacer piece for my daughter, and it basically ripped the hell out of the packaging trying to get it open. But yeah, so you have the Beholder there, and I just love how it's got like the pink Beholder with the purple eye and like the angry teeth there, kind of like the angry look on its eye there, central eye. I just thought it looked adorable, and it's Beholder, so I had to have it. All right, so now that we've got that out of the way, the next thing to do is just to take a look at the Icons of the Realms D&D Minis Beholder Collector Set. Ugh. And then the 2010 version of the Beholder's Collector Set from Wizards of the Coast. I've already got the minis out just to make things a little bit easier on myself, but we will take a look at the packaging really quick. So the first thing, obviously, these are very different styles of packaging. This is a very minimalist approach, which is kind of like a new corporate thing where everything's sort of subdued or understated. But I actually think this works really well for this particular set because all three of these Beholders are painted by different individuals in the gaming, like the miniature painting community. And these are like they're based off of their design. So these are more mass produced, but they are based off the works of professionals. So I like the fact that they actually have the box art showcase their work and not just like illustrations. You still get the standard beholder from the Monster Manual on the side there, which these minis are all based off of. And then on the back, you just have the side and back profiles of them. Yeah, so again, really, really cool. And I love the fact that it's highlighting other people's work in the community. I think that's great. 59.99 Canadian, but that's a pretty fair price for 3 minis when something like the Framework set, which you can only make one miniature out of, costs $40. And again, Canadian prices, so just make that very clear. But I think overall it's still really worth it, especially if the original artists that these are based off of, if they're being well compensated for their work and their time. So really, really cool stuff there. And then we got the 2010 Beholders collection set. So this has just your artwork on it. Kind of a strange, interesting background here. This was the same background that they would use on the Dragons collector set as well. But we have the Beholder in the front here, and it's based off of the Ultimate Tyrant artwork, or Beholder mini. So you got like the segmented eye stalks with the horns coming up on either side of the central eye. So really cool to kind of see that. And then on this side here, we actually have a Ghost Beholder, again, taken from one of the Monster Manual artworks. And on the back, we just see the Beholder miniatures that are included. So we have the Eye of Frost, the Ghost Beholder, the Eye of Shadow, and the Beholder Eye Tyrant. So what was interesting about this set was these are based off of like pre-existing miniatures, with the exception of this guy. This Beholder is actually a completely unique sculpt to this set. So this was the only place to get this version of the Beholder. These other ones were based off of other previously released Beholders, but they were actually cast in a translucent plastics to give them sort of a more ghostly or ethereal or icy sort of look to them, which was really, really cool. I think the original ones that these were based off of were just like black plastic that was painted. So they kind of redid these to make them a bit more unique for the collector set. So let's take a look. First of all, we have the Icons of the Realm. So we've already taken a look at these pretty recently, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. But we're just going to set these guys here for now. And we'll take a closer look here in a moment. But let's take a look at that original set. So we're going to do this really quickly, and then I'm going to show some side-by-sides. Not very many of these have direct comparisons or direct counterparts in the newer set, but we do have that original or basic Eye Tyrant version, which looks, again, really, really cool. Get the camera to focus. So you got like the brown sort of coloration, which was pretty standard at the time. It is based off of the paint style on the original Beholder Mini from 2005. So that looks really cool. Then we have the Eye of Shadow. So this was from the Shadowfell. And it's the same sculpt as that original Beholder, but again in the translucent purple plastic. And it's probably not going to show up well on camera that this is a see-through plastic, but in person it looks awesome. So it's just, you know, the lighting and the way that the camera picks things up, it's just not going to look as cool in person, but still really awesome there. Then we have our Ghost Beholder. Again, translucent. This one, I think you can get the translucent effect a little bit better on, hopefully. But yeah, translucent blue. The eye, the central eye, is missing. The one of the eye stalks is partially cut and just sort of hanging down. One of them is actually cleaved all the way through. Another one's cut all the way through. Just really cool kind of sculpt to it there. And then we've got the Beholder Eye of Frost in a translucent white, with just like a white wash basically applied over top of it. And it looks like it's made out of solid ice. So really, really cool. So let's compare these a little bit more directly. Again, they're not perfect because they are two different eras and everything else. But let's start with the Eye of Shadow, because when I saw this one, that's kind of what I thought of as like the Shadowfell Beholder. So you can also see that with the newer ones, they are slightly larger than the other Beholder miniatures from the previous sets. Not like massively bigger, but it is noticeable. They're also higher up because of the base that they're on. but still really, really cool looking. So we got this one I thought eyeshadow because of like the purple coloration, which also doesn't show up very well on camera. So, but the black eye and to me, this felt like a Shadowfell Beholder. And so I'm just going to compare it to the Eye of Shadow. Now again, we don't really have a direct comparison, but we're just going to take a look at these two side by side. So you just got like sort of like the standard beholders. And again, I love, obviously the newer one's going to have more detail because it's based off of a professional paint job and not just something that was easy to mass produce like these other ones were. But still, again, really cool just to have a couple of beholders side by side. We'll even compare it side by side with the Ghost Beholder, even though it's definitely not one of those. Still really cool. And then the one that has the most direct comparison, and my favorite from both sets, is the Eye of Frost Beholder. So again, this isn't specifically an Eye of Frost, but in the artist bio, he did say he was inspired by the Eye of Frost Beholder, and you can actually kind of see it. Both of these have a predominantly white body with a blue central eye and blue eyes on the eye stalks. Obviously, again, more detail with like the white irises, but they still have like the cat eye, kind of like the slit pupils on the eye stalks, which is really cool. So you can kind of see that there is a little bit of inspiration from one to the other. And again, these are just two really cool looking minis. Both of these are my favorite from the set. So there we go. That was my Beholder collection, as well as a comparison to the various Beholders in both of the collector sets that we've had released over the years. And yeah, I think both sets were really good for the era that they were from, for the price that they were charging for what you got. $40 Canadian for four large minis back then was actually pretty good. And again, collector's set, you've got the fancy packaging. They also came with stat cards, which is really, really cool. The modern ones are based off of professional painters' works. So again, sort of a different idea behind the theme of the set, but still really awesome. I think that both of these sets are great. This one's obviously going to be way harder to find. But I think that they're both great, and I would not put one above the other. And I just love Beholders, so I thought it was just gonna be fun to do this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, what are each of your favorite monsters? And are you insane like me and try to collect as much stuff of your favorite monster as you can? Or are you more like pragmatic about your miniature collecting habits? Let me know that in the comments below. But thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.